A year ago, I rebuilt my entire home lab, and 5 decisions that I made changed everything and led to easier management, fewer headaches, and way better reliability. In this video, I'll break down what I changed, why it worked, and the exact results. So the first was switching from pfSense to UniFi for my firewall. So I bought a Netgate 6100, and overall it worked extremely well for the 3 or 4 years that I used it. Now I always used UniFi equipment for my switching and my access points, but I used pfSense at the firewall level and it worked very, very well. And overall, it was actually a very tough decision switching from pfSense to UniFi. And the main reason is because at the firewall level, when something is working, you really don't want to change it. But I had to look at the bigger overall picture. And what I was doing was spending a lot of time maintaining it. And maintaining isn't the best way of describing it, but it's really enhancing the system. So for example, I wanted to implement IDS and IPS. I don't need a complicated IDS and IPS setup. So I started to look into it and I had to implement Snort. And Snort is extremely customizable. And if you need that level of customization, then going with pfSense is actually a benefit for you. But for me, it ended up being a downside because I wanted to implement something like that. And as soon as I looked into it, I knew I had hours of work ahead of me. That is not something that I really wanted from a home lab. I wanted something that was customizable, that I could utilize some of those features, but not actually customize it to that level. For that reason, I decided to switch to a UniFi Dream Machine Pro Max. And I have to be honest, I was very concerned about it in the beginning, but I'm happy to say that after a year, overall, I have the exact same setup and in a lot of cases, better because I'm utilizing features like IDS and IPS, which I wasn't prior. But also from a day-to-day management perspective, it's significantly easier. So that was the biggest change that I thought could be a problem that actually ended up fulfilling my goal of easier management. So that's number one. With that said, I do know there's going to be a lot of people that are using and still love pfSense. I'm not suggesting you change. I'm just saying that for my individual needs, pfSense to UniFi was the right decision. The next was improving my backups. Now, this is something that took months, and I finally just got it to the point where I'm very happy with it. But for a long time, I was using different NAS devices, and I was doing it so that I could stay up to date with all of the NAS brands. And if somebody asked me a question, I would have an answer from a first-party perspective. I used it. This is what I'm recommending. Unfortunately, when you do something like that, you're not putting your data integrity at the forefront. So I had to take a step back and realize that the best decision was for me to consolidate down to one brand. The brand that I went with was TrueNAS. So I retired my Synology NAS. I switched my Ugreen DXP 8800 Plus from running UGOS to running TrueNAS, and I have a DXP 4800 Plus that I have TrueNAS running on as well. That gives me a 3-2-1 backup strategy. Now I'm still using those devices and keeping up to date with them, but not using them for my personal data. Now, why did I switch over to TrueNAS? Well, what I'm doing is I'm using something called ZFS replication. That's what I'm using for backup purposes. So the DXP 4800 Plus that I have here turns on at 2 a.m., turns off at 3 a.m., and it basically just does an incremental ZFS replication pull. So it pulls data from my primary NAS. So I have an on-site backup that runs for 1 hour per day that I could always revert back to if I had to. My offsite backup stays on 24/7 and it runs an hourly ZFS replication pull. So the data is being pulled on that offsite NAS. And that's a true disaster recovery solution. If I really had to, I would drive to that location, pick up the NAS, restore the data locally because doing it over the internet is going to take forever. But I now have a full 3-2-1 backup strategy. I also improved my virtual machine backups. So I was always using NFS shares for Proxmox. I switched to Proxmox Backup Server. I have one running locally, which I'm using actually as a VM in Proxmox and connecting it to a NFS share. But on my offsite NAS, the DXP 8800 Plus, what I'm doing is just running it as a VM and it works well. Same idea. I connect directly to it. I have the correct permissions so that Proxmox can back up to that device, but it can't actually delete anything. So that setup has saved me a lot of space. It's given me a better overall backup strategy. And the biggest difference there really has been TrueNAS. So if you're interested in learning how I'm using ZFS replication for backups, because keep in mind, ZFS replication in itself is not a backup. You have to configure it properly. I have a full video on that. And if you're interested in implementing Proxmox Backup Server using an NFS share, I have a video on that as well. The next is implementing an internal reverse proxy server. Now, reverse proxy servers are really designed for external traffic. So you expose that reverse proxy server, and then you can connect to multiple services locally and then expose them externally using just that one reverse proxy server. I don't have a need for that. I don't have to expose any of these services externally, so I am doing everything locally. Now, the setup is a little different for that reason, and I have a video on this if you're interested. But Nginx Proxy Manager makes this very, very easy, and I've talked about this in videos in the past, but it's really improved the setup because one, I don't really have to worry about remembering internal IP addresses. And then number two is if I want to add a new service, because I'm using a wildcard certificate, I basically just go in, create a DNS record, then I go in, add the entry into Nginx Proxy Manager, and bam, it's there. I have a full SSL certificate for that service, and I can access it using a domain name that I will remember. The biggest downside with this is that if for whatever reason my Docker VM goes down, it ends up becoming a big problem. And I can still connect to everything locally, so it's not the end of the world, but I'm so used to connecting to these services using their domain name that it ends up becoming a problem, which leads into the next point, which is setting up a 2-node Proxmox cluster instead of a 3-node. Now, don't get me wrong. I would love to have a full 3-node Proxmox cluster, but it does not make sense for my setup. The reality is I don't have enough services to really benefit from a 3-node cluster. Now, don't get me wrong. I could go out and build one and it would be running there and it would have services running on it. And I'd basically be load balancing the other 2 servers that I have. But again, I don't really have a need for it. So instead, what I did is I set up a 2-node cluster and I use a Raspberry Pi to provide the 3rd vote to maintain quorum so that I can utilize high availability. Now, going into this, I was looking at it like I was going to utilize high availability for everything, but the reality is I really have 2 or 3 services that I need to keep running, and I have those set up with VM replication. So basically, the node that the VM exists on will replicate that data on a set schedule to the other node. So node A, node B, if a VM is on A, it will replicate to B and vice versa. What that allows me to do is then set up high availability. And if for whatever reason, the server goes down, so meaning one of the nodes goes down, after a minute or so, it will automatically, meaning the VM, will automatically kick on that other node. Now, this provides high availability for my important services. Now, again, would it be better to have 3 nodes? Of course it would be. But in a home lab environment, I really don't need it. And this allows me to provide high availability for these services, but not provide it over 3 nodes. So this is something that's worked extremely well. And I really don't have a reason to build a 3rd node. I left it in the background as something I would consider depending on how this ran. But after running for a year, 2 nodes for most home lab users is more than enough, and it will do exactly what you're looking for. Now, the last is switching to all third-party services. Now, in this space, we all have services that we rely on a day-to-day basis. Most of them are running in Docker, but you could have them running in an LXC container, etc. For me, some of the apps that I relied on the most were actually first-party applications, and this was the biggest hurdle for me. So I use Synology Drive, Synology Photos, and Active Backup for Business. I've talked about this in many videos in the past. Well, those are great applications and 3 main reasons why people buy a Synology NAS. But the biggest downside for me was that in order to get off of a Synology, I had to get off of those services, and it took a lot of time for me to do that. For that reason, rather than going from one first-party solution to another first-party solution, I took the time to triage what was best and determine what third-party solution I could use, where I could use any type of hardware in the future and maintain that functionality. So those 3 applications I replaced with Nextcloud, Image, and Your Backup. Now, I'm not here to say which one is better than the other. If you're interested, you could look up comparisons. But I am here to say that switching to third-party solutions allows me now in the future to utilize devices that can run my services rather than utilizing brands that I need for specific services. So again, this took a lot of time and was arguably the biggest change for me and the biggest hindrance to this change. But now I'm in a position where I have the same functionality that I had and I'm hardware agnostic. I can use whatever hardware I want. Of course, like I said, I'm still utilizing certain services like ZFS replication and TrueNAS, and replacing that wouldn't be the easiest thing. But from a service perspective, I am no longer utilizing first-party services, which will make expanding in the future a lot easier than it was. Now, I'm going to throw in one bonus one, which is boring to a lot of people, but it's monitoring. I'm not going to focus on this because I've made a few videos at this point that go over monitoring. But if you're not monitoring your services, you should really take the time to do it. I set up Bezel, Uptime Kuma, and I started to play around with Graylog. And I now have a strategy for monitoring everything and actually digging into problems if and when they occur. And you don't have to do all of this, but the reality is if you did one of these services, you're going to be better off than you were. So I'd highly recommend that you check out one, if not all of them, and implement some sort of monitoring in your home lab, because it's made a huge difference for me. Now, I know that was a lot, and there are probably a lot of people out there that will either disagree with those changes or have changes that they would recommend even better than what I implemented, and I'd love to hear those in the comments. I'd also love to hear suggestions for 2026. I have a few ideas that I plan on implementing, and I'm hoping that they go as smoothly as all of these changes went, because looking back on the past year, I really had a very bad setup. And at this point, I have a significantly better setup than I had that will improve just about everything from day-to-day usage to management to maintaining and everything in between. So I'm hoping you got some value out of this video. If you made it this far, thank you very much for watching. I will see you guys next time.